Hi, I'm Nancy Juetten. I am the leader of the Raise Your Voice, Make Your Impact Facebook group. And today I'm here with my friend, colleague, and admired business collaborator, Holley Mignosi. Say hello, Holley.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Nancy. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I love how many rock stars we have in this group,
Mm.
and I love the collaborations that are taking shape as people show up in their brilliant way. And Holley and I go way back. And when I learned about her body language and hand gesture training and expertise that was rooted in her years of study and all kinds of important work that she's done, I knew I wanted to talk to her live about it because I think with virtual speaking, we all have an opportunity to make a much deeper connection by using our hands, using our body, using our breath, using our voice. And this doesn't happen to be an expertise that I have. So I was only too happy to invite Holley to be my guest on a show that we're going to be sharing with you as soon as this live is complete. But the thing that I wanted to talk about today that I thought was so powerful is what was going on for each one of us as we approached this opportunity to do the live interview. And so I will confess that when I was thinking about sharing the screen with this beautiful woman, I looked in the mirror in the bathroom that day and thought, oh boy, I get to share the screen with that. And I looked in the mirror and I looked at her and I thought, okay, how am I going to rise up to this and not feel less than? Because we all make comparisons about what we think people are based on what we see in the mirror or what we don't. And so, Holley, maybe you can share a little bit about what was going on for you as you were getting ready for the same conversation.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity to share this, Nancy, because we shared this with each other after the camera turned off. And it was so opening and real and authentic and vulnerable. And so that's why we're sharing it with everyone here today. And what was going on for me was before, while I was getting ready for your interview, I started getting nervous. And I typically get very excited to share my content. I love it. It's fun. It makes a huge difference for people. It's exciting. It's different. But I don't usually get nervous. And I noticed, gosh, I think I'm sweating a little bit. I think I'm a little nervous. I'm not just excited. I'm actually feeling a little bit intimidated. And I had to check in with myself, like you did a self-check. And I thought, gosh, what's could be going on here? And you and I had met years ago. And what I noticed for myself was I was feeling intimidated by you because the first time that we met, I saw you on stage. And you are a tall, radiant woman who commands the stage with charisma and joy. And I noticed that when I was thinking about you, I was thinking about your success level, the things that you've done in your life, and I was kind of doing an internal comparison. But even more importantly, in my mind, I was physically positioning you above me. It's as though I had taken a mental snapshot of you on stage, and I think I was even in the front row when I first saw you, maybe the front or second row. So the way I would have been looking at you would be like this, like very much literally and figuratively looking up to you. And so I wanted to, share how powerful that is when we take the stage. People are literally and figuratively looking up to us. And when we look up to someone, there's a physical reaction and a neurological reaction, just like when we're little and we look up to someone. You can hear it in our language patterns. When we look up to someone, it's because we're looking up. And so I had to, in my mind, make the adjustment and position. I had to bring you down a little bit and make us equal in my mind so that I could feel worthy. So I could calm my nerves and say, okay, I got this. I'm going to show up. I'm going to give. There's a reason why she invited me on. She must see something in me. And I just had to really do this self-talk to calm myself down. And it was interesting when we shared what was going on with each other.
Well, one of our fellow members in this group, I think her name is Amy Woodkey, and one of the things I've heard her say sometimes is, I have to do a checkup from the neck up so I can show up at my best. And so I was doing a checkup from the neck up as to whether or not I would feel good sharing the screen with someone so naturally beautiful. You were sharing this this concern about wondering if the authority was a match. And it turns out that what we manufacture in our head is really head trash that stands in the way of all kinds of great things that could happen for everybody. And so, since you've studied so much about the neuroscience, about what goes on there, could you just sort of elaborate on these 4 A's that we need to sort of kick to the curb, or at least acknowledge their existence, so that we can manage them when we have the opportunity to share a microphone with someone of significant impact or influence?
Absolutely, would be my pleasure. It turns out there are 4 A's of hypnotic influence. So if you're watching, you may want to grab a pen and write this down. They all start with A. And I think by just being aware of them, it helps us to do that check-in and that check-up from the neck up, as you said so brilliantly. So the first A is authority. We will give our influence, we will give credit to people who we believe have authority. So authority, there's pure authority, such as a commander in military, police, doctor, attorneys. When we see them, we tend to instantly give them authority because they're either more intelligent, they're studied, they have the law on their side, whatever the reason. So the first is authority. If we believe someone has more authority in one of those categories, we instantly position them above us. The second is attractiveness or attractivity. If we find someone to be more attractive, then we instantly give them more influence over us. And the interesting thing about that attractive piece is it has to fit in with whatever the cultural norms are. Let me give you an example. I'm going to date myself for a second. If a member of the Bee Gees, remember the Bee Gees? Staying alive. Okay. If the member of the Bee Gees walked into a punk rock club, they may not think he's particularly attractive. In fact, he may be made fun of. But if he walks into a disco, then he owns the nightclub, right? So it's all about what is the norm for that culture. The third is affinity. Affinity refers to us wanting to be accepted by people who are like us or people that we want to be like. So that was happening a bit for me too with you. I gave you authority and I wanted to be like you as well. And I found that attractive. So in a certain way, I guess you could say all three where they can kind of layer together. And we tend to seek validation from those people. So if you're noticing that you're seeking validation and you're starting to do things you normally wouldn't do, like, why am I doing this? Oh, okay, I'm seeking approval. I want to be like them. I'm seeking validation. So we need to give ourselves the validation. And then the fourth A is acquiescence. Those are people that are going to follow the leader no matter what. They're just natural followers. They position themselves much lower on the hierarchy totem pole of culture. And so they're always just going to follow no matter what. So there's those 4 A's. And if we find ourselves in a situation where we notice we're really giving someone credibility, leadership, we're turning over our influence to them, we're allowing them to influence, I want to check in and say, why am I doing that?
Well, and maybe we shouldn't do that, which brings me to something else that was sort of coming up for me that I think is something that comes up for many people who are in the Raise Your Voice, Make Your Impact group. As speakers, experts, and authors, we want to take our place on bigger live and virtual stages. We want the opportunity to speak up on even more influential podcasts and television shows and platforms. And one of the things that I notice is that I call it picking the low-hanging fruit. There are places where I know I can be selected as a speaker very easily because it's a newer stage podcast that hasn't established a very robust audience yet. They're hungry for experts, and I'm an excellent podcast guest. So I know that if I make a smart approach, they will likely say yes, and I'll get more reps in delivering my message. And I can fill my calendar with many early stage podcast opportunities and feel as though I am busy. But what I've been thinking about and trying to get present to is how much I would like to take my place on much bigger shows. And as I take a measure of the lists of shows that I could be on, and I start paying attention to how many episodes that have been produced and how many favorable 5-star reviews are posted, I go into self-doubt and I get very uncomfortable because I ask myself, do I truly have the authority and the attractiveness and the affinity and whatever else I need, the right stuff to take my place? And sometimes I let that head trash stand in the way of my actual pitch because for some reason I'm judging myself unworthy. And one of the big ideas that I want to very transparently share is that if we stay in our comfort zone, there's an upside to that, but there's a downside to that too, which is there's all kinds of people that won't get to hear what we have to say and benefit from it if we stay small. So I wanted to use this, spontaneous sharing between us as a salvo and a dare, if you will, for every single one of us to reach up a tier or two to the podcasts and the broadcasts and the invitations we want to extend to have conversations with people that could catapult us all to a higher plane. And if we could take that on as a challenge and as a dare, maybe, today, at one level or another, either one of us thought that the other was more superior to the other. And now as we've gotten to know each other, we really see ourselves as peers and
kindred spirits.
People that we can link arms with, the people we can open doors for. And isn't that a beautiful thing? So I wanted to sort of just say, get over those A's, start getting on with it, get out of your comfort zone and get into a groove where you can be reaching higher. And whilst there will be no's and rejection along the path, consider those marks of honor as you step up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is just this sort of the synchronicity of color. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because in the interview that you're soon going to be seeing about gestures and body language and et cetera, I showed up in a purple sweater and you showed up in this gorgeous teal top.
Yeah.
And without any prior planning, here I am in royal purple and you're in purple and lavender. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah. So that's interesting too, the psychology of color. So if you're into branding or psychology or visibility on the virtual stage, you might find this interesting. And when we first came on, Nancy said, oh my gosh, we're both wearing purple. Is there something to that? And the psychology around purple is that it's a regal color. It's a royal color. Kings and queens would wear these colors combined with yellow, which is a complementary color to signify their royalty. And I haven't researched this part, and I kind of came up with it on my own, but here's how I also think of the color purple. Purple is a combination of red and blue. And if you look at our chakra chart, red is our base root chakra, which governs security, financial wealth, and overall well-being. Blue is on the other spectrum. It's all the way at the top. It's up here. It's your third eye. It's your wisdom, the wealth of knowledge that you have. And so purple, to me, which would resonate up here on the chakra chart, is a combination from your base root, I need financial security, I need to be okay and to be safe, all the way through the creativity chakra, the personal power chakra, the heart, the throat, and then the third eye, all the way up there. So it's a combination of all of those together, radiating out. And color, as we know, is actually just light waves. There are light waves that are different wavelengths, and the different wavelengths show up as color to our eye. So it's a different wavelength that combines everything.
Oh, that's so interesting. Well, I think it's so interesting that you and I both chose those colors without checking in with each other.
Yeah.
And
we're on the same wavelength.
We're on the same wavelength, and isn't that like attracts like? I wanted to share one other story about the judgments we make about what people look like and how it affects what we do and how we behave. And I want to just share this story from a few years ago. The year that I was turning 40, I decided I wanted to run a half marathon. And that's a long time. That's like 13.2 miles. And I think the most I'd ever run before then was 10K, and it was very, very slowly. And so I went to this information interview with the coach that was going to lead this training. And all the pretty ladies were there. The size 2, perfectly coiffed, super fit, amazingly gorgeous women that were in this room. And there I was. And I was making my judgments about these pretty women and the fact that maybe I didn't feel like I belonged there. And I certainly had doubts about whether or not I could run a half marathon and still live to tell the tale. Well, it was an interesting experience because I sat there silently as each woman in the room went around to explain why running the half marathon was important to her. And each person had such a specific, memorable, and powerful story of personal transformation. What I had imagined about these pretty people wasn't their Facebook feed at all. It was life hard won, challenges overcome, mindset shifts accomplished. And when it came time for me to speak up and answer the question, did I want to do the half marathon training after all? I remember speaking up and saying how honored I was to be present to the stories that these beautiful women were sharing, and that the transformations that they had achieved with mileage on the road were the kind of mindset shifts that I needed to make if I was going to have the kind of life I wanted. And I decided to join the training. But that was the last time up until meeting you again that I thought, oh my gosh, do I belong in this group? I'm going to be so slow. I'm not going to be able to perform. Everybody's got a story that's outside of what we all know. But if we want to serve and grow and profit and raise our voice and make our impact, there's something special and amazing about each one of us that deserves an audience. And when we get to have that audience, we need to bring our body to the presentation. We need to bring our hand gestures to the presentation. We need to bring eye contact to the camera. And those are some of the things that we're going to be talking about. So what if you, Holley, mention to people some of the things that they can learn when they participate in the training that we're going to drop in just a couple of minutes?
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. Some of the things that we talked about were how to show up on camera, the virtual stage, and how does that change body language compared to the large in-person stage. Because on camera, we have this little box versus on stage, our gestures can be big and grand and bold, and truly we need to take up the whole room, not just the stage, but really communicate to the back of the room, the last row. How does that translate in this three-dimensional world? So we talked also a little bit about the seventh digital sense. If there are 6 senses, I spontaneously made up the 7th digital sense, so you'll hear a little bit about that. You'll also hear about how you can step into the body language of leadership and influence. And truly, even if you don't feel like it in the moment, if you're nervous when you're getting on, or like I was earlier, when we were recording this, your body language really has the power to shift your mindset the fastest, even before trying to change pictures in your mind or try to change your affirmations or something. Just by sitting up a little taller, taking up a little more space, breathing the way you would breathe if you were absolutely in charge, making the difference in the world that you're here to make, you can instantly start changing how you feel. So you're going to get some of those tips as well. It's going to be fun.
And it was fun. And I'm so glad that, I got so much value from that conversation. And now with political events as heated as they are, I've been paying particular attention to gestures, hand gestures, body language, eye contact, and noticing to what extent that has got the potential to influence who might be the next leader of the free world. We can all influence our audiences to become leaders or followers or whatever it is that we want if we continue along the path to mastery about everything there is to know about raising our voice, making our impact, using our body, using our hand gestures, and showing up with these A's elsewhere.
Well, add a 5th A, awareness. We just need to be aware of those, and then we can put them in check. Yes. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. And watching the debates too is really quite fascinating when you know, because all this can be learned. Some people do it naturally, yes. But if you learn what are the markers of influence and leadership, you can begin to embody that and express that as well. And when you know what they are and you watch other people do it, you start to see, oh, that's very influential, that thing they just did. And I guarantee you, they're not doing it by accident. When they get to the level of running for vice president or presidency, they have been coached on these things. They know it very well.
Well, and I want everyone to know within this group that if that is an area of expertise that you want to learn more about, Holley Mignosi is a member of this group. She's my esteemed colleague and co-collaborator. She's someone who leads a group of her own. What is the name of your group in the event folks want to go and find you there?
Oh, thank you, Nancy. It's Shine on Stage. Shine on Stage is the Facebook group.
And for those of you who do not yet lead a Facebook group of your own, I think I'm going to do a separate Be Live in the coming weeks about how valuable that can be, because you know what? If you have 1,000 fans, advocates, champions, and followers who are totally committed to you and how you do it and the way that you teach it and the way you show up, you could have a never-ending flow of perfect people doing business with you. But if you don't start a group at all, you don't have the community to nurture to become further along on that path. And of all the things that I've done in recent years, leading this Facebook group and growing it and serving it to the best of my ability has been the most rewarding in every way. And I know you're having that same experience at Shine on Stage, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great honor to be there and to take care of people, answer questions, and you can connect and you're reachable. Yeah, it's amazing.
So if you have got something awesome that you have to share with this community and think I should interview you, show up more readily so I can pay attention and know that you're someone I want to reach out to and have conversations like the one we just had. And I'm going to drop the link to the body language and gesture training in the comments below. And I invite everyone who watches to drop comments below and let us know what your big ahas are, what your next steps are, what you're going to do differently when you next get a chance to take to the virtual or live stage. And I look forward to seeing what breakthroughs will happen for you as you do. So Holley, thank you so much for doing this with me. And we always like those likes, comments, hearts, comments, whatever, it's always so good to be seen, heard, and celebrated. So with that, thank you, Holley, so much for making the time. I'll drop the link below, and I believe you'll be sharing this in your group too. And
I will.
And that's some cross-pollination, if people aren't my glass of tea, they'll find Holley to be their glass of tea. There's plenty of business out there for all of us. And isn't that a beautiful thing?
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you so much, Nancy. It's been an honor and a privilege to share again.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. I look forward to seeing you here in Nancy's amazing group or in mine. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Wonderful. Thank you.